My recording computer has a serious malfunction. Recommended either be corrected or scrapped. Compute.
Computed.
I wouldn't mind so much if only it didn't get so affectionate.
It also has an unfortunate tendency to giggle.
This is the program that gives your business a technological edge in the 21st century. It's The Edge of the Web with your host, Aaron Sparks.
You're back with Edge of the Web. I love my Shatner. I'm sorry. I got to get my Shatner fixed.
I love
everyone.
it too.
You're here on Edge of the Web, provided by Site Strategics. We're talking about internet marketing. We're talking about blog content with a gentleman named Douglas Karr from DK New Media. And we're so happy to have him on board for another segment talking about all this blogging content, but more specifically, what are called infographics, and they're designed pieces of artwork. They really are,
Right.
Because I mean, if you get some good designers behind that,
Yes.
it just explodes on the page, and that's part of it is building a graphic that explains a process or data comparison or an issue about what services your company may provide, but it also gives a good deal of amperage to your website. What I mean by that is these infographics are linkable. You actually put some embed code that other users that have their own blogs can actually grab and put on their own site.
Right.
And it gives a little link back to your website. That's part of the embed code. Internet marketing is search engine optimization is a third of that, if not more, of the criterion is inbound links coming into a website and the value of those websites and the scoring of those websites and how they pass that back over to you. So them carrying your water, so to speak, and getting some good value of content, you're actually getting some great scoring hits.
And it's always shared on relevant sites too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's
right.
That's the key is you know, you're not, we were joking, you know, offline about, you know, people that they do infographics on, you know, all kinds of topics. They might, you know, they might do it on the drought or something in Indiana, and they're a let's say they're an SEO company. Well,
Right.
come on, you know, you don't want to rank on those terms, and all the people that share that infographic are going to be irrelevant to your audience. So don't do it. You know, so we. You know, maybe we could talk about a little bit, you know, the process that we take when we're working with a client is we go out and do a ton of research first. We don't even get the story. We just take a topic. So maybe it's, you know, we were talking about today, maybe it's social media spend, you know,
Yep.
and so we'll go out there and we'll pull all the data that we can find on the internet about social media spend and get all of that down in maybe 10 pages, you know, in a Word document.
Right.
And then we'll sit there and pick through it and find, you know, what are the gems here? What are the real things that are going to capture people's attention and maybe startle them a little bit and wake them up? And then we craft a story around that, you know, and we tend to come up with maybe a couple different angles to it. And then we hand it to an infographic designer, and I like saying that over designer because we were talking about this too. That a graphic designer is not an infographic designer. And I'm sorry, all you graphic designers out there but it really takes this 2 dimensions of understanding data,
Right.
understanding how to create a story visually, you know, and being a great graphic designer. And
They're basically mutants in an odd way.
yeah, they are. They're hard to find.
Oh, yeah, I
you
imagine.
know, there's maybe a dozen firms on the internet that are really well known for doing infographics, and we've churned through. You know, we probably had a dozen infographic designers, you know, and firms that we had worked with that we had to drop before we found, you know, the right ones.
Excellent.
And then they create this visual aesthetic of a story and almost always surprise us. They almost always blow us away with that story. And then we take it back to the client, you know, and say, what do you think? You know, and sometimes they love it, you know, if they're a little bit, you know, tightly wound.
Right.
You know, maybe they don't like it, but it'll go through several iterations there, and then we'll produce it and push it out.
The client obviously is participating in the data discovery.
Yes.
A lot of times the the message that you get whenever you're interacting with a client and why they're in business and what this means to the industry,
Right.
they can convey that in a dialogue with you, but it doesn't convey on their website.
Right.
And no matter how you can try to morph the interface, the design, the persuasive elements on a website, a lot of times that message doesn't get across, but an infographic
Yeah.
absolutely can carry that
Yeah.
impactful, and by its very essence, you're also going to have a longer time on page
Yes.
of those users just reading through everything. This is
Right.
not blip verps. These are not 3 seconds and out. These are people spending minutes on the graphic here.
That's a good question. I'm just curious. On Google Analytics, what are you seeing? Bounce rates, I'm sure, are very watchable. Yeah, I mean, you want to keep an eye on those for sure.
Yeah, we tend to see high bounce rates, but we tend to see a lot more visitors on the site, and time on site is typically longer. So it's not, because these are visual aesthetics, they're easier to digest, for a user. They're not reading and interpreting things. They're glancing, seeing whether they like it, and bailing. Which, I'm not a huge advocate of, getting scared about high bounce rates. If it's not relevant, get out of there.
Right.
And let's keep the people that are interested.
But the average time on site, the increased time on site, the increased links to a particular page, do help an entire website score well.
That's the huge. It's
the payoff.
so easy to share these. That's what you're doing. Is imagine if you could, the ability to create some kind of document of some sort with your logo on it that represented your authority in the industry, that other people were willing to share without you paying them. That's an infographic.
How's that work again? Well, I'll tell you, Matt Cutts from Google talked a little bit on infographics. He had an interview recently. He said, in principle, there's nothing wrong with the concept of an infographic. He says, what concerns me is the types of things that people are doing with them. They get far off topic, or the fact checking is really poor. Infographic may be neat, but if the information is based on is simply wrong, then it's misleading people. He said, I wouldn't be surprised that at some point in the future we did not start to discount these infographic type links to a degree.
Ugh.
Yeah.
You're going to make me squirm.
I'm sorry.
Do you think Google just doesn't understand infographics at this point? Because they didn't understand social media.
That's true. I think we talked about this.
This is blogging, right? When we first started blogging, those were the screams of pain from the traditional media, and rightly so, right? Journalists would take a deep dive and do the research and come up with real stuff, and bloggers would kind of scratch the surface and just kind of make everybody angry.
I think you made a point when we were talking just recently about the fact that Google's getting into vetting out content and vetting out value.
That's scary.
It really is, because now they're starting to say, well, as much energy as you put into this, you're not good enough to actually score the way we. I think what they're doing is really reacting to the fact that their metrics, their measurements on average time on page, the links coming to the thing, are really out. It's blowing away the algorithm right now.
Exactly.
And they got to counter with something that if they actually step across the line of actually evaluating your content on an infographics tab, what's going to stop them from evaluating the content on the blog? Well, you're not really talking about what we want you to talk about, and you're not talking it to a level of authority, so we're not going to give you that much credence.
The web is democratized. If I say something that's bogus, you have the opportunity to tell me it's bogus on your own.
That's right.
So we talked about politics earlier. If Google wants to go after bad infographics with manipulated data, he better shut down the White House and the Romney campaign.
That's
immediately.
Right. That's right. Both of them.
And I'm not saying that's not saying anything disparaging, but they both utilize data to tell a story in the way that they want to persuade people.
Right.
And so
you can't stake that claim of starting to evaluate.
Right. And so if the White House puts out something and Romney's camp wants to say no, that's bogus, well, they can put out something.
Right.
And that's the way it works. And each community can share it. They can challenge each other, you know, and that's what's beautiful about the web is that we have that, you know,
Public
it's not like a
domain, right.
magazine where you can't insert your, you know, your response, you
Right.
know, on the web, you absolutely can. So I really, that kind of stuff just scares me. We see it on Facebook as well. You know, the edge rank algorithm. We were just talking about it.
Yep.
In fact, you know, the Kardashian age of the internet, and that's
right.
that the stuff that tends to make it to the surface is so shallow and so, you know, you don't have any deep
candy, it's
thoughts.
junk food.
It
I know.
is.
I'm
And
putting kittens on my Facebook for my clout score. I've completely sold out my audience.
this is the new strategic marketing. You know, you need more kittens. Maybe we should do infographics of kittens.
I think we're going to do that, actually. We're going to take a break real quick. You're listening to 1430 News Talk, Edge of the Web radio. Hopefully we can have Doug for one more segment here. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Excellent. We'll be right back.